Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our own craft of fatherhood. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 12 to 19, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yes, my friend, I'm in the thick of it, and I'm working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend JD Denham. He is a man of God, pursues the heart of his wife, knows and adores his kiddos, and is a leader of men, calling them into the fullness of their leadership opportunity. You can find him on Instagram at JD_Denham_fit. And this dude at age 47 is shredded, is ripped, and it is so hard to do, but it is such an inspiration and revealing that it is possible. Enjoy meeting my friend JD. All right, JD, welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. How you feeling today? I am doing great. It's Friday, 3-day weekend, and I get to talk fatherhood with you.
Awesome, man. How about
first question right out the gate. How old do you find yourself today?
47. I'll be 48 in a couple weeks.
Yeah. And well, shoot, I mean, I'm guessing based on some of your recent posts of being 47 with your shirt off, you probably look better today than you did at 18.
Man, it's made me a couple bucks, believe it or not. I never even expected that to happen, but God knows what he's doing, man. He's been in control of that. It's been a weird experience the last year of my life.
Incredible. How many years you been married?
I've been married 7 years. I have been with my bride for 13, almost 13. August will be 13. I have 2 boys with her. I have a 3-year-old and I have a 1-year-old. I also have a daughter from a previous marriage who was 21, and I have a granddaughter that is the same age as my 1-year-old. My granddaughter is almost 1, so I hold my granddaughter and my son in the same arms. I'm like, be a good uncle, you know.
Talk to me about that. Like, what's the what goes on in your head on a with that, whether it's, I don't know what goes on.
Yeah. Very different. I had my daughter at 25. I was a very immature 25-year-old. I was heavily into punk rock music and and just was wild. I came out of the womb with a mohawk and both fingers up, and it took me a long time to iron that out. So I was very immature 25-year-old, and having a daughter at 25 or just a child at 25, you're a child to a degree, fast forward years, so basically 20 years later, so to speak, and having my 2 boys, it's awesome because you have radically changed. You have so much life experience, and you realize how fast it goes. So the beauty of that, and my favorite part of it, Ned, is that you blink and you blink and it's 20 years later, so I'm very, very aware of that. And man, I'm working a lot. God's been blessing my life and taking my life in all kinds of angles, specifically in the last year or so. And it's required a lot of my time. I'm in my office working, or at my office, working, and I'll be down here. And, I preach to men out there to put your dang phone down, man, and be present. And sometimes I find myself falling away from my own advice, and so I do catch it. I put my phone down, I don't bring it upstairs, and I go wrestle with my boys, because I know that it's going to be a fleeting moment, and they're not going to be little boys. They're going to be young men. You know what I mean? So that's the best, I think, part of it is realizing how fast that it goes, and really being able to.
How much does having young boys impact your desire? And I don't know when this came about, but to be in such good shape, right? You've said you want to be in better shape next year than you are this year. So this pursuit, does that have to do with having a 1 and 3-year-old boy? Like, what is that? Where does that drive come from?
I mean, it will to a degree. I mean, I think the genesis of that was really just sobriety. I got sober in 2011, and I was a heroin addict, so I was touching
Yeah.
death, man. Like if I would have stayed on that path a few more months, I wouldn't have made it. Like it's certainty, But in hindsight, all those broken roads led me to where I was supposed to be. The way I articulate is God was molding me, and in my weakness, my weakest points, I was like clay. He was molding me the entire time and hardening me by that drug addiction. So when he knew when I would defeat it and conquer it,
Mm,
start working on it. I've been through a lot. So it takes a lot to offend me. It takes a lot. So to answer your
mm,
question, yeah, it's between me and me. I try to be better than I was yesterday in all aspects, health and nutrition. It's not about how I look. It's just about being better. That's with work. That's with being a better husband. Um, you know, Society has changed so radically to the degree that
mm,
we have fallen so far away
mhm,
from just what God has ordained men to be the leaders and to be the strength. And it affected me. COVID was the real genesis of that. I was telling my wife and I were talking because I just did a podcast with her, and it's funny because people
mhm.
see me on these screens now. Like I said, I don't even know how all that happened, but I'm actually really quiet. I don't talk that much. I'm very quiet and observant. I'm just kind of a to myself type of guy, So people see me talking all the time, so they think that's my personality, And it's funny, but yeah, man, I believe that we are supposed to better ourselves and be in competition with us yesterday, and lighting a fire in other men by living how we speak. And we can all speak a
Mhm.
game and like say we're this and say we're that, but what really affects people is how you act. Like they're
Yeah.
going to look at you, they're going to watch you. He can say he's a man of integrity. Is he a man of integrity? Well, he's acting a little funky, So that the fitness stuff is kind of a more personal thing with me. Now, the health stuff with having a young granddaughter and my boys, sure, absolutely. That part is without a doubt.
Yeah.
I want
It's
to be
awesome.
around for them a long time. If I can't even believe that I have two young boys when I'm 47, and my wife is literally hunting me down for number three.
Mm.
you know,
How's your relationship with
um,
your daughter?
but yeah, so
You
that's
having a
definitely a
couple
part of
little
it for sure.
kids, her stepping into motherhood. Yeah, how's your relationship with her?
Yeah, my daughter and I have had it's been
Mm,
a roller coaster ride, a little precarious at times. My ex-wife and I went through a brutal divorce. It was brutal, and I was definitely into my addiction at the time. But when we started going
mhm,
through the divorce, not to air dirty laundry, but she wouldn't let me see her for a while, and she kind of used that against me in court and blah blah blah. And
mhm,
I don't have the heart to do that for people, even at my darkest points. I don't have an evil heart, Like I was a drug addict, but I don't have that evilness in me, so I couldn't catch up to why anybody would not want their father to see their child. I couldn't wrap my brain out of it,
mhm.
and that was really kind of where the nosedive into self
Yeah.
destruction began. Of f this, f that, and f you. Then, man, this world sucks, and everybody can kiss it, And I just really adopted that poor me and that type of mindset, and that led heavily into the addiction. It got heavier and heavier and heavier. So to answer your question, it's good now. My daughter has a lot of her mom in her, and she grew up with hearing her dad's bad and he's this, she fed her some of that type of stuff. Again, I'm trying not to air that laundry, but and that affects people's subconscious, so that's been deep in my daughter's subconscious, I think. Now, I think
Yeah.
though, through the years of my daughter seeing her dad actually be a man of integrity and kind of seeing like that I live how I speak, that stuff's ironed out substantially. Now her being a mother, and
For sure.
this, when you being a parent changes you forever. Your perspective on life just changes. There's, even if
Yeah.
you're not someone that's a good parent or not, it can't change you because you created life. You created life. You know what I mean? And that can't not affect. So it's good, man. I mean, we have a good relationship at times, and then sometimes she's
Oh,
just
that's good.
we don't talk as much. So we're working through it. She's very close with my wife. My wife's a sweetheart. And my wife has a very is kind of a buffer
Mm,
to some of the
mm.
the
So work in progress. You
stuff
guys
that
are
she and
still
I struggle with, the
building,
communication,
cultivating,
the lack thereof, I
connecting.
should
Love
say.
it, dude. Where do you guys live? Where do you do life?
We are in Costa Mesa now. We just moved from Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach is home,
Yeah.
so we hated moving it. But with growing kids, we had
Cool.
to do an
So I
upgrade to
live in
get a bigger
Hawaii now,
place because
but
we're
we
compounded. But Costa
lived
Mesa
mostly in
currently,
Northern California, but I
California.
did go to Vanguard.
Yeah.
Did not finish college, but that's where I went for a bit in
Okay.
Costa Mesa,
Oh, right.
Huntington Beach area. So yeah, man. Love the area. We're on the Big Island on the Kona side. Yeah, we've been here for about 4
Sweet.
years.
What
Now,
island?
JD, what is it that you do?
Okay.
Just in a couple sentences, or a couple minutes. I love and hate the question because men typically size each other up by asking, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" But the reason why I ask the question is because you could be the manager at Target, you could be the CEO of a 10,000 company, you could, whatever. Fatherhood is still fatherhood. We're still going to have what do I do when my kid turns 10? What do I do when my daughter gets her period? What do I do when my kid's 16 years old and gets a car, right? It's a level playing field. So I like to help men see the different things that we do. So with that being said, what is it that you do to provide value in the world and to feed the family?
Yeah. So I started a fitness channel about a year ago. I've been a mortgage banker for 22 years. That's my profession. I started a fitness channel just on a whim because I needed a positive outlook. During COVID, I started looking around and I just saw men giving up on life. I saw everybody overweight. I saw very passive, weak men. So I was going to try to make my mark that way. I was going to try to get men off of the couch, men over 40 off the couch, and get them back in shape by diet, exercise. I do HIIT training stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. So it started that way, and it's molded over the last year into. I opened up a peptide company.
And
So
are
I own
you
a
still doing
peptide
the
company,
mortgage broker?
and I have a podcast like you, man. So those three
just
things are what I do currently.
Full online help men.
No, I
Love
haven't
it,
done
dude.
it. Yeah,
Cool.
I gave it up.
Cool. What a cool thing to be able to do and feed the family.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what is the
I love it.
role of the father?
Ooh, I love this question. It's so powerful. The man is the leader. We are the provider. We are the protection. We are the refuge for our family to run to in times of fear, in times of uncertainty. That's the man's role. And that's where this started because I saw men not providing that. If you look around at young teenagers, they're not growing men. They're not young men. They're very weak. And that's because of the father. Like, for example, what is a man's role? You teach your sons, and daughters, but sons particularly in regards to when you're sitting down, somebody comes in, you stand up, you shake their hand, you look them in the eye, right? If a woman's going up an escalator, you stand behind her. If you're walking on the street, you walk on the street side. Those things aren't being passed on to sons in particular, and that's a father's role, man. What drives me crazy, and I'm not saying I'm above this because I do it too, but I try to be very conscious of it. If I take my sons to the park, there's other fathers, their faces in their phone, man, and they're not playing with them, and that's the problem. Our face is in a phone, and we're not present. People don't have conversation, and the easiness of society has been great. Technology has been great on that side,
when
but
you
it
first
also
answered the
is
question,
a
you said the
big
father's
barrier
the
of
leader.
connection.
I was going to ask you, and still am, what is a leader? Now, one of the things that you did say in kind of the description of it is refuge, right? So unpack those words for me a little bit from JD's perspective. What is a leader, and what does refuge mean to you?
Yeah. So the father is, for example, if you don't have food, there's only a certain amount of food. The father doesn't eat, right? He doesn't. He goes without so his family can go with. If regardless of what a man does for a living, a man, if he has to work 20 hours a day to provide food, then you do it. Period. Like that's it. There's no. Just do it. God made us strong-minded, different than a woman, because the leader means when a man takes that masculine role and truly takes that role, the woman can fall into her feminine role, and she can be the take care of the kids and be the nurturer. That's what's wrong with society. You have men not taking that leadership role and being that masculine role. So therefore women are needing to kind of step up and do both. So they can't fall into that feminine role necessarily as much because they have to do both. So that's the leader. When a man handles business, like for example, again, when I was talking with my wife this last time,
Mm-hmm.
my wife knows if something goes down and there's something unsafe, she stands behind
Yeah.
me,
So
and period. Like,
yeah,
you know what I
sanctuary. I
mean?
like that.
Period.
So leader is
That's
really a
what I'm
servant,
talking about,
right?
like
You're
the
like,
provider and security,
you're serving those
sanctuary.
that have been placed in your care. And then the refuge and
Sure.
sanctuary is you're creating a space. Um,
Absolutely.
physically, mentally, spiritually, you're creating safe space for them.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
All the above, man, because one of the best things, and I can tell you're like this because I know that we started
Mm,
off with a prayer, right? I respect that
mm,
heavily. What's the best thing that we can pass on to our children? Power of prayer, man.
mm-hmm,
Like my sons, before they go to bed, my son always runs up, Dad, do my prayer. You know what I mean? Like that's the best thing that we can pass
mm.
on to our children. The power of prayer,
So this
man.
is a
That's
new question
when you
that
have
I've been
nothing, you got
asking,
prayer,
and
man.
I was
If
going to
it's
ask it later,
authentic,
but I'll
God's
ask it
listening to you.
now based on what you just said. How are you going to pass your faith to your sons? Now, you're in a little different stage, which is cool, right? You're 47. You have a lot more wisdom experience than, say, when you were 25, right? Um, and and your kids aren't 16, 17, and I'm asking you this
Sure.
question, right? You are starting to think about this, and when your kids are 1 and 3, and we got another one coming, it sounds like, eventually. um how are you going to pass your faith on to your boys? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, leading by example. Like I said, everybody has words, but a lot of times it's empty words. One of the things when I was
Mm-hmm.
younger that kind of strayed me away from just the church and Christianity is I saw a lot of hypocrisy in it. So I just ran from it, like I didn't like that. So I saw people speaking a good game, but they weren't living how they speak. So that would be the best thing is I come down here at 4 a.m. It's my time, and I don't look at my phone for an hour. Right? I don't look at it. I won't. And Ephesians talks about putting on the armor of God.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot make it, Ned, in this world. I am attracted to darkness. I came out the womb that day that way, man. And I have 14 years of sobriety because for 14 years plus,
Mm-hmm.
I wake up and the first time of my day is with me and God. And I read the Bible every day. I have other books that I read. I start with a prayer. I read 5 books. I end with the Bible. And then I kneel down on that white couch right there and I literally get on my knees and pray because they
Mm-hmm.
bend. And that's how I honor God, man. And there's times my son has come in and seen me. Not, I wasn't doing it strategically. He's seen me, and I have actually posted some stuff that my
Mm-hmm.
wife luckily caught of my son kneeling next to me. So that's what I'm talking about. Leading by example, not because I'm trying to necessarily even teach him. Sure, teach him,
Mm-hmm.
but this is how we do it. Like this is how you become a man of integrity and stay on that road by doing these things habitually and basically
Mm-hmm.
cultivating
So
a man of integrity, a
I
man of
like what you said
character,
just
and
now.
a
You
man of
said, like,
God,
this is how,
without a doubt.
right? So through your actions, right, through consistent actions, you're showing them how. You did mention earlier, like, when somebody walks into a room, you stand up, you look them in the eye, you shake their hand. Your sons are going to see that for the next, whatever, the rest of their lives. They're going to see you do that
Yep.
while also,
Right.
yeah. Did your
Totally.
dad ever tell you this is what Denhams do?
I saw my dad do it.
Yeah. Mm.
He did. My dad is a man of integrity. I mean, I've never seen my dad drink a beer. He's a very, very strong man of faith. I strayed from it. I didn't, like I said, I wasn't choking down all the stuff. Early on in my life, my dad was a little bit more rigid like that. He was like the fire and brimstone
Mhm.
type of guy. He's changed so much from that. He's really softened up because we all evolve, and like that, you need to do this,
Mm.
this, and this, or you're going to hell. And like I was like, well, dude, I'm not doing any of that. So I guess I'm going to take a hard left away from all that.
Right.
But he did it because that he is a man of integrity, and that's what he thought. Like okay, I'll give you a perfect example. I have seen my dad reading the
Mhm.
Bible with his little dim light at like 5 a.m. since as long back as I can remember. He's always done it. Now,
Mhm.
is that the reason I do it? Not necessarily. I think it got within my subconscious, sure. I started that in sobriety because, I went through a rehab that they started off with reading the proverb of the day. I didn't stay in that rehab. I walked out, but God brought me to that rehab specifically to teach me that lesson because do that every day. I read the proverb of the day and I have for 14 years. So I do exactly like my father did. I can't say it was him that did it because I believe that was the part, that was why. But subconsciously,
Since we're
I
on the
saw
topic
him
of
do
your
it. So sure,
dad,
he was a big part of it. Sure.
what's something that you appreciated about your dad? And then what's something you would have changed? Now, that question is always strange to me because obviously you're the man you are today because of things, right? So maybe you wouldn't actually change it, but because of that piece that you saw, maybe you're doing things differently now. Make sense? What's something you appreciated about your dad?
Yeah. What's the first part again? What do I like about it? Yeah. What I appreciate my dad the most is the man of integrity that he is. I see other fathers. My dad was at every one of my sports events, every single one. It doesn't matter if we were 3 hours away playing ball,
Right.
3 hours away, he was at every one. Now, it took me years to catch up to how special that was because there was a lot of boys that had no parent there. You know what I mean? But you're young, you don't catch up to those perspectives until you're supposed to, so he was at every one of those. And again, he was teaching me those lessons, not by necessarily always passing it on to his son, like, you need to do this, son. He was doing it by his actions. He lives how he speaks. He is a man of integrity. And that's without a doubt the thing I would say for sure. What would I change? I mean, it was hard for me. He living up to the expectation of what I thought he was supposed to, that I was supposed to, because he was a strong man of integrity. And my dad doesn't cut corners and things like that. Me being this punk rock kid, rebellious as they come, felt like I couldn't live up to that expectation. So again, my sister embraced it, and that's how she's been a strong Christian her entire life. But I couldn't live up to that, so I took a hard left out of let's just party, dude. You know what I mean? So that would be if I could change it. And we've my dad and I have gotten so close. When I was young, Ned, I ran away from the fact I'm nothing. We're so different. Like, I'm a free spirit. He's so rigid, and like I'm nothing like my dad. And for the longest time, I really ran away from that. And that was just how I shouted from the rooftops. Fast forward to now. I mean, if you compare, if I'm half the man my dad is, I'm stoked because he's a good dude, and
Sure. Yeah.
I find myself being my father all the time.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
awesome.
Oh my gosh, that was
and
my
what's
dad.
your guys' relationship
And
like now?
I love it. He's a good dude. It's amazing, man. It's a good relationship. One of the best things in the last few years, Ned, that I've gone through is just a lot of deep healing on just a lot. I'm assuming that's with age. Does everybody do that? No, because I know a lot of guys my age that don't do that. Again, I think a lot of it's through sobriety. A lot of it is just seeking growth in regards to everything. Just deep healing in regards to all around. And I think that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to continue to grow and evolve and bob and
No, I mean, you're
weave.
talking about, I asked how your relationship with your
So I
dad
kind of
was. You
lost my
said
train
it's
of thought
really
where I was
good.
going with that, but
You've cultivated a deeper relationship with him.
oh yeah, so my
Mhm.
relationship with my dad was strained for a long time, due to the fact of the differences. He did not understand the partying. I was very different, without a doubt. Now, fast forward years, and me continuing to grow and evolve and stuff, and I have become very direct. I don't sugarcoat stuff. I love that type of personality too. Like, above all else, give me truth. I don't care what it is. I just want the truth, and like I like that. And so I've had very direct conversations with him about some of these subjects, and my dad's like me. I say I'm like my dad. Even if I say something that he doesn't agree with, he'll digest it and he'll come back and we'll talk about it, And I mean, at this point, my relationship with my father is one of the top relationships because um, it's so pure now. There's no BS. There's no facades anymore. There's no like there's just some things that I've talked to him about personally between me and him that are deep. And I sat across from him and talked about them. And both of us know there's no hurt in these words. This is just me addressing this stuff, and we talk like men. That's how close we are. You know what I mean? I don't say anything to hurt him, and I know he's not going to say anything to hurt me. Like, we can talk.
How old is your dad?
And
roughly?
Just be real. So it's a great relationship, to answer your question.
What do you want your dad's relationship with your sons to
73?
be?
Oh man, it's great. So this is a cool question. So I was not going to have any more kids. I was done. And then I met my bride, and she's 10 years younger, and I wasn't going to cheat her out of that. I really didn't want to start over, but God knows what he's doing. And now I can't even imagine my life without these boys. But so when my first son, Jax, was in my wife's belly, I had a conversation with my dad of just about I'm going to have a son and blah, blah, blah. And he was super excited. He said, my bloodline continues. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, my bloodline ended with you. And I said, well, because my dad has a brother and he has sons. And he said, but it's not my direct bloodline. Like and I was like, wow, I did not know that he even looked at it like that. Right. And I'm not kidding you, Ned. My dad loves these two boys like he lights up. Just adores
this is something I'm thinking about for myself as well. So I have 4 daughters and a son. My son is about to turn 16. And so I have this just deep conviction right now to lean into him in a highly intentional way to prepare him for manhood, which again, it's finding that balance of he's watched me for the last 16 years. So he's going to do a lot of the things that I've done or, much better than me, hopefully, based on just watching me. But I do have an opportunity to create space to connect and teach, etc. So I've been thinking about how am I going to invite my father into this? And so as your boys grow, what is the relationship that you want them to have? Now, obviously, your dad has this deep, the bloodline thing's huge, right? It's something I don't think we talk about enough. But what do you want, I guess, how do you want your dad to see the boys, or how do you want your boys to see your dad, hoping that your dad lives a long, healthy life, right? Like they're 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, right? And he's going to be a part of their lives. What do you hope that looks like?
I heard somebody say this or read it somewhere recently that you can judge a person by their grandkids. So meaning, does that pass on through the son to the grandkids, right? So that's powerful because, again, I strayed from the lessons my father took me for a very, very long time. But when it was time for me to get sober and lean on principles and those strengths and those integrity that he always lived, they were embedded in my subconscious, dude. That's all I saw my dad doing. You know what I mean? Like those lessons of that I teach my sons, I say it on my channels all the time. We're training our replacements. We don't, you have a son, and daughters too, but sons particularly, because we talk about them being the leaders. And we don't just have our sons' lives in our hands. I have 2 sons. So I have 2 families in my hands. Like I have to prepare them to be men of integrity to the degree where they are the leaders of their family and they are the refuge for their family. That's powerful. You know what I mean? Like if you stop and just let that sink in for a second, that is so powerful. And that's that's the void out there. Men aren't doing that. So then it's passing on to generations and it's just chaos.
If we made that our priority over our hobby or our career, the world would just look different. And that's why I lean into the fatherhood conversation, is because I think so many of us men are passive, maybe because nobody's invited us into like our greatest calling, our greatest role. So we look for it in like a hobby or we look for it in a career versus the opportunity we have to just love and serve and create refuge, sanctuary for our families. When did you embrace fatherhood? So, you're 40, you've been married 7 years, got married at 40, you thought you were done with this. And then your bride's like, yo, we're having kids. And so when did you embrace it to go, wow, fatherhood matters, having sons matters, like everything you just said about your replacements, when did that come to you?
Yeah, it's a really great question because I think, and maybe you can kind of chime in on this too. So for me, I have 3 kids, and like
Mhm.
when your wife is pregnant, it's
Mhm.
not really real until you hold that baby. For her, it's real because that baby's in her belly, and they have that connection. It's like, or at least for me, each time it was, I didn't feel that actually fatherly connection until that baby popped out, and I'm actually, it's a physical or like a visual, or at least it was for
Mm.
me. But COVID for me was a catalyst for a lot. God, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I was called on by God to do something that I had never been called on God so deeply to do. So I came out the womb very punk rock, very rebellious. And it was a double edged sword at
Mm.
times. But COVID was kind of a light of that. I couldn't stand what I was seeing. I didn't believe anything that was said. And I could not believe that the world so passively fell in line so easily. I was blown away by it. I mean, even the church, like, how are we shutting these doors, man? We were told this is going to come, and
Mhm.
not out of condemnation or challenging the pastors and stuff, but I was like, dude, like people need the church, like, you know what I mean? And so in
So
regards to
yeah,
all
yeah.
that, man, I keep losing my train of thought. What was the question again? Keep going on these left field. Oh, so COVID hits, brother, and I'm having a hard time with it. And this is when the
Mhm.
real catalyst of everything kind of changed, because I couldn't believe men weren't kind of being more vocal
Mm.
and standing up and being men. So I felt like God calling on me, you need to speak up for me. I felt it in my soul, and I was trying to figure out what that meant. So I started a company called Unwoke, and just a t-shirt company. And it was extremely polarizing. Now, I wasn't expecting it to be such a polarizing subject, because anybody knows me knows my heart. I'm a good dude. I don't have a problem with necessarily gay people or this or that. I don't judge anybody. I don't
Mm.
care. But it came off as very polarizing, and people did not know how to handle it. So everybody started to step back from me. I mean, everybody, my
Wow.
wife's family, like all my friends. It was my wife and my father who were the only ones standing near me. But God said, stand up for me. And my stance was this, Ned, like, men being confused and
Mhm.
dressing up like a woman and trying to go into a woman's restroom, like, it's not happening on my watch. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, I couldn't believe that was happening. And I couldn't believe that men weren't trying to stop it. Like, everybody was just passively going along with it. So unwoke to me was that a middle finger to that. Nope, not going to happen.
Mhm.
Or a man trying to compete in a woman's sport. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. So unwoke for me was that. Now, was that articulated through a shirt that said unwoke? Probably not. But if you ever asked me what it was about, there you go. It was that type of stuff. But people had a hard time with it. So I found myself alone on a mountain, taking on the world. And I have the moxie to do it. I don't really care what people think of me. That's where that came from, the beating heroin addiction and God molding me into this strong thing for that time, I believe. But he kept calling on me to stand up. And
Mhm.
I believe that's what he wanted me to do in that form. I wasn't mean. I wasn't rude. That was a stance. That was my stance. Put a mask on. I don't
Right.
believe in that, so I'm not going to do it. Not out of disrespect, but I'm selling myself out if I do it. So I wasn't willing to do that. Right. So that was the stance, and everybody stood back for me. And it was very eye opening to life and
Mhm.
things like that. But that ran its course after about a year. And I kind of, God just said, you're done with it, man. And I put it to bed. It wasn't yielding contentment, but I did what I think I was supposed to do. And I truly believe, because I stood boldly for God, even though I was attacked, called a bigot, called a
Mhm.
racist every day, because I had an Instagram channel, and I was just, you know what I mean? But I was standing up against this injustice. It meant
Mm.
something to me. I put it to bed, and that's when I needed a positive outlet. I'd been so engulfed in negative. People were
Yeah.
sending me reels, and I'd had to edit them and repost them of just the negative stuff going on. Remember, COVID, it was horrible. So that's when I started the fitness channel, man. I said, I need an outlet. I just need to do something for me. I love nutrition. I love God. I love
Mm.
my family. And I sat down with my wife and I said, I'm going to quit this job and I'm going to do this fitness channel. She said, Well, if anybody can do it, you can do it. That's what she said. That's my bride. That's who she supported me. And I just started putting out content, Ned, of just that type of stuff. I honor God on my channel, and I talk about my family a lot. I talk about obviously nutrition and health and all that. But here's the point of all that. I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that because I stood boldly on that hill by myself for God, I believe the blessings and all the doors that have
Yeah.
opened in the last year of my
So I
life
want to,
were
yeah,
because God said
that he can
he's
trust
blessing me
that
because of it.
you
I
are a
stood boldly
partner with
for him.
him. So I want to circle back to what kind of led into this was this idea of your kids are your replacement, right? So when did that come about? When did this idea of, right? Because I mean, COVID was
Yeah.
5 years ago almost. You guys had your kids after COVID, after the unwoke sort of stance you took.
Yeah.
When did you embrace that fatherhood is a critical calling on your life on top of, or not, like more foundationally than all the other things?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question because I mean, again, I think it's when it's kind of that perfect storm, so to speak, coming out of that the COVID stuff and the unwoke stuff, then my boys being born, and also looking around and just seeing so many men give up. Everybody's overweight, everybody's given up. And I looked around and everybody was out of shape. And again, I saw men on their phones at the not playing with their kids. And that was the stance, man. I was like, you know what, man, we are letting these kids down, and I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna literally try to teach my boys to be better than I can ever be. Like my ultimate goal is to teach them to be better than I could have ever imagined. That's the goal. So it was when they were born, and seeing the society kind of
Yeah.
crumbling and men
So
not
talk to me about that
standing up
balance,
and
right?
being men.
Obviously, one in
I'm going to
three, you
teach
have a
my
lot of
boys to be
space. They've
men.
got naps. They go to bed early. You know, it's relatively like you've got time to invest into your teaching men. How do you balance out the, okay, there's so many men out there who need help. They're coming to me. It's like you could spend every waking hour on that versus I want
Yeah.
to roll around and, you know, wrestle with my kids on the floor, take them on a walk and cultivate depth of relationship with them. I wrestle with it now. Just in this last year, I'm 41 and I made some shifts in my own life to go,
Yeah.
I currently need to take a pause
Get
on
it.
some of the traveling I was doing to speak and do things because I see the windows closing with my son. Like I got 2 years of him under my roof. So I'm saying no to a lot more so that I could lean into that. And those
Yeah.
lost dudes will be there in 5 years. I mean, not to, you know, and I'll be all the wiser. So where are you at on that?
It's a great question. Yeah, I'm probably a little bit behind you on that because it's a balance, and that's
Mm-hmm.
Jedi stuff. I mean, that's where we I think we find those answers in prayer and meditation and time with ourselves. The best when I need guidance, I fast a lot, and I'll be out in my backyard and just praying and going through that stuff because I get a lot of DMs of broken men. My channel calls on men's hearts, and I take so much pride in it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
haven't, my channel's gotten pretty big, so especially my Instagram, and I could hire somebody to answer my DMs, but I don't. I answer every single one of them myself because that's why I started this to help people, and if courage is contagious. I've been through a lot, man, and I've been broken. So if a man's in a broken stage, because I talk obviously a lot about sobriety, and that brings a lot of people to my DMs through that type of stuff. And especially at first, Ned, I mean,
Yeah.
literally answering emails like I read at 4 by 5, I'm working, and from 5
Mm-hmm.
all day till 9 o'clock, I'm answering DMs of
Mm-hmm.
those types of things. There's a lot of hatred in those DMs too, but there's a lot of just love and support, and then just broken men that kind of just need somebody. You lit a fire in their soul by something you posted. You get that. You have a channel just like it. So you light a fire, and that's that iron sharpens iron stuff, man. That's we're here for. My sponsor 14 years ago told me words that have changed my life, and I heed them daily. If you can't see in my office, but it says it right there. It's my
Mm.
favorite quote. He said, JD,
Yeah.
great men help other men succeed. You know what I mean? And changed my life. I heed that. And so,
Yeah.
you know, so to get to your question, to the balance, I'm working on it because I interviewed a good friend of mine, Joe Brown. He's got a big financial channel on YouTube and stuff, and he's just such a good dude. He's got a big channel, and I've become friends with him through the years. I'm a financial guy too, so I ran into him, became friends with him. So I've had him on my podcast, and he said something to me that, man, it circles my brain a lot, and it's going to be perfect for what we're talking about because he's like us. He's on doing social media, podcasts, all that stuff. And he said, you know what, JD? He said, you know, I could work past 5 and make more money. You know, I could. He said, I'd pretty good off anyway. But he said, I shut my day down at 5 o'clock and I go upstairs and I spend time with my family, and that's non-negotiable. And he said, I could stay there and I could work. But he said, I enforce that discipline. And that's something that sits in my head often because sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I'm working and I hear my boys playing upstairs, and I'm not always heeding my own advice. Like, I speak it and I mean it, and oftentimes I do live it, but I'm not perfect at it. You know, I have a lot of work. I'm juggling a lot. You know,
Yeah, and I think
and,
that's the other thing
where's
is
the balance
that men need to be aware
to
of is
answer your
there's
question?
seasons,
I'm working on
right?
it.
It's like your season right now, you're building a new business. You know, if in 10 years you're still putting in 60
Yeah.
hours and you're not at the baseball game or whatever, then right, you've become addicted to the calling, which can never be,
Right.
it can never replace it, right? Because this family only has you and I, right? There is no one else stepping in there. And frankly, there wouldn't be all this men's work to do if dads would have just done their damn job, you know, whatever, 30 years ago. Okay, let's see here. What
So true.
we're coming to,
gosh, so
like,
true.
you know, we've got a little bit more time together. What is something that really is important to your heart? Typically, how I ask this question is around rebel and create. So podcast is Fatherhood Field Notes. You've been sharing your field notes with us, but the mantra is rebel and create. And you've already shared it, right? Rebellious dude, but not just for the sake of tear shit down. It's, I want to go tear this down so that I can create X, Y, and Z. And you've already shared a lot of what you are rebelling against and what you hope to create from that. Is there anything else that kind of comes to mind about what you're rebelling against and what you hope to create against that?
It's a loaded question, man. I mean, I am not a big fan of government. I'm not a big fan of the food industry or pharmaceuticals. I'm not a big fan of
So
lying.
talk to me about the lying one.
You know,
right? I think it's those other ones I
rebel against.
We could jump on and talk about, but a lot of people are. So let's talk about the lying.
Yeah. Just again, above all else, give me truth, man. The world is a big fat ruse, you know, and even on social media, everybody's posting like life's peaches and roses and stuff. It's just the world is, but it's a ruse, you know, where everything's not perfect, you know. So, yeah, I'm a pretty tough cookie, man. Like, I just want truth from people. Like, everybody sugarcoats this and sugarcoats that, and like I said, I that's what I rebel against, lies. Like, I the older that I get, I used to think I had all these friends and like blah blah blah, and the older I get, I realize I don't have that many true friends. But I don't want friends that are going to sugarcoat something for me. I want people around me that if I'm acting off or if I'm acting different or if I'm, you know, they go, hey man, like you're off, man. Are you okay? Or if I step outside of my integrity, you know, and I'm not living
so do you
the way
have,
that I should
do
be
you
living,
have
they
a
go, hey man,
friend that has called you
that's not
out
really
in
how
the
you
last
should be
6
acting, dude.
months, and
So
or have you called someone else out and the relationship has stayed true?
Yeah. I sobriety kind of yields a lot of that stuff. A lot of people that can't keep long-term sobriety if they're not kind of living with that type of a mentality. Nothing is perfect in regards to it, but yeah, I've done both.
You've talked about sobriety a
friend
bit
out
back in
and vice
2011.
versa, for
What
sure.
led you to
You know?
your sobriety?
I believe that was God. I mean, I wouldn't take back the horrible times that I went. I mean, I was in such a desperate state of existence that I hated waking up. You know, it was that. It's hard to articulate to anybody unless they've truly felt it. I felt so far away from who I was supposed to be and who I was raised to be.
Mm-hmm.
And in that state is a godless existence. I didn't believe in God. And it's lonely to the core of who you're being. Again, if you've never experienced it, you don't really, that's the weight, the words don't give it even enough weight. And that's hopelessness. That's the hopelessness that drug addicts and alcoholics will talk about. And that is where God is.
Mm-hmm.
He's not present with you in your life, meaning when you're hopeless, that's when people don't make it. Like, I could do a ton of drugs and alcohol. I'd been partying for years. It wasn't the drugs and alcohol that were going to take me out. I
Yeah. So let
finally
me
got
ask
to the state of
this very
hopelessness where I was
specifically.
just
So like
about ready to just kind
we
of
put
give
together
up.
this little father-son group. Last night we do it once a month. We sat around the fire, and there's 4 dads and 5 boys. And each month
Brad.
we're having a dad share his story of coming into manhood. And so last night, one of the guys shared his story, the dad's. It was beautiful, bro,
Right.
epic. And his moment was coming out of similar situations that you were in, and surrendering to God. So for him, the sobering moment was not just choosing to not be, to pursue that, but an actual surrendering to God. So for you, in your experience in 2011, you have this lifestyle you're living. And talk to me. Is this so? Can you disconnect that you became sober from you surrendered to God? Are those one and the same, or are they disconnected? Okay, so
No,
you said it's not the drugs and
for
alcohol
sure.
that was
Yeah,
really
no, you can't do it without it.
it's not that it wasn't the issue, but the symptom is this hopelessness, this emptiness. What was the triggering moment? How are you one of the quote unquote lucky ones? Like, I don't really believe that, right? But how do you go from A to B?
Yeah.
What happened there?
Well, that's kind of a cool story. So I got sober basically 2 weeks, two weeks before I got sober. It's a rad story. You'll like this one. It's so I had been up for days. I did heroin and speed. That was my drug of choice. I'd literally been up for probably a week because of the speed. And I was in my room. I had lived in this house. I rented a room in Temecula, and I'd been up for days, and it's like 2 a.m, and I've been partying for a long time. I was by myself, and I was dripping in sweat. And I was dripping in sweat, and my heart started to kind of palpitate. And I was like, wow, that's, and I thought basically that was it. And I was in such a hopeless state of mind that I wasn't even scared. I was more like, I'm tired. But in my head, I thought of this God that my parents would speak of, in this heaven and hell. And I was like, well, man, if that's real and I am going to die, right, I'm definitely going to hell. So I threw up a prayer, and I said, God, if you're real, I need you to show up, because I'm a mess. And I fell asleep that night. And, a day later or something, my buddy comes over with my morning dose of self-destruction, like always, and out the door we went. This is the very next day. And we stopped at a liquor store. And I almost always would go in with him, but I'm like, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. Just grab me some vodka. And he goes inside to get some booze. And I'm sitting against his car, just kind of in my own world, just thinking, smoking a cigarette. And I catch this kind of lady out of my corner of my eye, kind of coming up to me, but timid, elderly lady. And so I finally look at her. I said, ma'am, are you okay? Can I help you? And she says, sweetheart, I don't want you to think I'm crazy or I'm strange, but God put it on my heart to come up to you and to tell you that he loves you, and he has a huge plan for you, and you're going to affect many people's lives. Whoa. And the beauty of that story isn't even that story. I mean, I hugged her, and I said, man, I don't think you're ever going to know what you did. But that wasn't her, man. That was God. God came through that lady and I said, God, if you're real, show up. And he did the next day, because I wasn't going to make it. I was giving up, and but the beautiful part of that was that those words, flicker of hope that got within my soul, just a flicker, and it festered, and 2 weeks later, it was January 18th, 2011, and that was just my day, brother. I was just done, and I haven't looked back
powerful.
since.
And as dudes listen to this, I think God is giving us opportunities all the time to throw out that flicker of hope. It doesn't even always have to come into the Jesus wants you to know X, Y, or Z. It could
Yeah.
be so many things. And so my encouragement is like, us dudes, we're so busy. Are we pausing to go, hey, God, I've got like part of my prayer time this morning. Hey, God, my calendar's full today. I got a plan, but your will be done. If there's an opportunity for whatever, like help me be open to it. So being open to hearing him give you these opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So how open are you going to be with your sons about your past? What, you got some time to think about that, but what is that, the wrestle of, does this give you license to go do whatever and things work out?
Yeah.
Or does this give you an understanding of who your father is? And so what do you think?
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm a very open book. I don't hide anything. Like, I had, even friends that, like, when they first got sober, they were kind of embarrassed of it. The beauty of that is change is possible. That's the message. Will that be condoning them in their teen years to party? That part's in God's hands. I mean, my 3-year-old is very rebellious. He is a firecracker. My wife and I talk about it all the time. He's either going to change the world or he's going to go in the direction, because my wife's sober too, that we did. But we do know that, and we do have the wisdom of those people that lived that drug addict lifestyle. So unlike my family that didn't see it coming, it's going to be hard to pull the wool over my eyes. So to answer your question, yeah, I'm going to be very honest with them. And I mean, my life is on screens now, and I talk very openly about everything. So as they get older, who knows if I'll still be doing these types of things, but in you have a podcast and you speak about these things, and you speak with men. We put ourselves out there, and like I don't know your story, but I would love to have you on my podcast too, because now I can ask you the questions, because I'm super intrigued by you, dude. Because it's very similar on just our approach with this. But for whatever reason, I wound up on a screen. And again, I'm not even a very talkative person. It just kind of happened. I didn't realize I had that much to say until I started talking. You know what I mean? And but the coolest part is, for whatever reason, the channels have grown to the degree where I'm getting noticed quite a bit when I'm out in places and stuff. It's kind of odd. But my point of saying that is this: I have to carry myself with integrity, because people are watching. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm saying that I live like that now under a microscope, I better be living like that, because like, I don't want people to go, that dude, that I've seen him, he's out of sorts. And that folds back into my children. Like, they're watching, more than anything. Like, I'm going to post something that's kind of funny that kind of coincides with this. So it's hot, and I don't, you see my channel, I don't always wear a shirt because it's a fitness channel, and people don't understand that that's why. But so now I'm cutting my shirts because it's hot, and I wear them like that to go to the gym, and I'm wearing them around the house all the time. So my son, I think it was yesterday or the day before, goes, "Dad, how do you get your shirts like that?" And I said, "Well, let's
Nice.
let me show you." I said, "Let's grab some shirts, dude." And he's all excited, and I cut his shirts like mine, and he puts the shirt on, and I'm holding my youngest, and Jax, my oldest, has his shirts, and he's so proud because he has his shirt off. He has a shirt cut like his dad. And I'm gonna show you your muscles, dude. And the point of that is they're watching it. That's proof. They're watching everything that we do.
Yeah.
So if we're not being men of integrity behind closed doors, they're going to pick up on that stuff, and they're going to become what they see, regardless of how you
with
act.
That
they're going
question,
to
or with
become
that
you.
statement, they are going to become like a
You know what
version
I mean?
of you.
Powerful.
What is the legacy that you want to leave? So if you were to fast forward 45 years from today, you ate enough of God's food, you made it to 100, you're still ripped, and you're looking into the homes of your sons. What is it that you would want to see as a 40, roughly 45, 46, 47-year-old men? What would you want to see being played out in their own homes that would make you just like smile on your face and be like, okay, I did my job. I can leave.
Oh man. Yeah, dude. That's such a great question, man. And kind of going back to like what I said in the beginning, if my sons are passing on to their sons the lessons that my dad has passed on to me, that's it. I want them to be men of integrity. I want them to pass on the power of prayer, because I mean, if you pray organically, like God's going to show up. He's going to answer. It might not be the answer you want, but he's going to answer if it's pure and it's real. So to pass on to them that of standing and being the leader, and ultimately passing on to my grandchildren, more importantly, or equally and as importantly, of that bloodline
Yeah.
of strong,
Yeah.
godly men.
It's funny, man.
Because, man, we both
I'm reading
know
this
the world
book right
needs
now.
more of us.
Adam's Return by Richard Rohr. Freaking blowing my mind. I've listened to it twice. Halfway through the print copy, I was on it, listening to it on a plane just the other day, and I was thinking, I've been thinking more about blessing. Like you hear, Abraham blesses his sons. You hear, like we read Old Testament. This is like blessing. What is a blessing? Like blessing is speaking life, right? And you've said this, kind of speaking life. And I want to kind of like pull in everything you just said, because today was the first day that I was like, all right, I put it down here on my timeline of like, okay, at the end of the podcast, I either want to give a blessing to JD or have JD give a blessing to me, or one of us give a blessing to the audience. And it's like, okay, well, what does that even mean? And so I just put blessing ... Holy Spirit with 3 question marks. Like, bro, just deliver something up. So when I asked you the legacy question, you're talking about passing on lessons, which makes me think passing on life, right? Because like I'm teaching you life. You said passing on the power of prayer, which is, I want to teach you how to be connected and in alignment with your creator, which is life, right? It's like life. Then that's the source of life. And then you brought it back to the bloodline, which is something like somewhere deep in your dad's soul meant something, because that's how we're created, right? And so we think of this bloodline, we think of all these things like that's the blessing. It's so interesting because we joke about how dads don't have a big role. We're like, cool, you had sex, you like barely participated in this thing. The work, though, is a lifetime of passing on the life, the lessons, so that when you are 100 and you're leaving, the values, the connection to God, the lessons, they are passed down. And I love, like you said earlier, bro, the judge a person by their grandkids.
Oh, man.
So,
yes,
dude, this is the blessing. This is the opportunity us fathers have. So as you think about JD's message, right? If you were to say a blessing to the audience and say, okay, I'm bestowing this upon you. JD said it from his life of experience. Now we can go walk in this life. What is that wisdom, that lesson, that life, that blessing that you would pass right now to the father who's driving in his car, who's on a run, who's mowing the lawn? What would you say to him that he could take right now into his own life?
Live how you speak. Be a man of integrity. If you're not happy and content with your life, then change it. Like, God's grace is new every single day, man. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. Trust me, you probably didn't do worse than me. But God's grace is new every day. And if you're unhappy in life, if your marriage is going sour, where I tell every guy to start with you, better you. Get up early when it stings. Get yourself a daily morning routine. I call mine, I call it my paying the tab. I pay my tab every morning, meaning if I don't pay my tab, if you go to a restaurant and you don't pay your tab, there's consequences. If I don't wake up and put the armor of God on me, there's consequences. So it's non-negotiable. I am in this room at 4 o'clock, no matter what. If I'm in Maui, I've been to the Big Island too, but Maui's my island. Yeah. And, but if I'm on a beach in Maui, my wife is sleeping, I wake up at 4. My alarm still is set at 4. It doesn't matter where I'm at. It's non-negotiable. So you start to cultivate a stronger man by your habits. You start little wins is what I talk with my guys about, whether it be sponsors or the people that I do a fitness channel with. You stack little wins, and that's how they compound, and that's where you find peace. And here's what I want to say to anybody that's listening. This might be striking a nerve. If you've never felt what I call a pocket of peace, it's better than a shot of heroin, and I've done it all. When I'm helping another man succeed with no expectation of anything in return, I fall down in these little pockets of peace, and it's absolute bliss, and nothing can affect that pocket of peace. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. That's where God's at, and you touch his soul, and vice versa.
Yes, and
that's how you
with
get
what you
there.
said
You
is
help
you
other people.
can't do that without
Help other
also
people.
leaning into God's grace for yourself, right? Yeah, and I think that's really important for dudes to hear is you cannot, yes, sacrifice yourself in a way, but you investing in you while you're on the journey, right? And that's the thing is you're never going to be fully perfect. That's not the goal.
Absolutely.
And I love what you said a moment ago is like God's grace is new every day, which is like, okay, I am going to lean into this. I don't have to go earn it. It's already there. So do I want to live in that?
There, dude. I mean, that's why, again, I start my morning routine with a prayer, and I end it with a prayer, and I end it on my knees because God spared me. I used to stick needles in my arms behind trash cans, dude. Like I was a junkie, dude. I shouldn't even be here. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I honor God daily. And it's my thing. It doesn't need to be anybody else's thing. That's how I do it. And I heard somebody share it. It's not, I didn't make it up. Like I heard some guy say that at a meeting. He said, I get on my knees because they bend. And I was like, wow, that's rad. And I adopted it and I've done it ever since. So I end on my knees at that couch because, and sometimes, man, my prayer is just thank you. Because I'm just so grateful. Like God, like when I do, I know you're kind of wrapping this up, but guys, like if your life's kind of out of whack, if you lean into God and you truly like, even if you're someone that's not, super religious, but you're somehow wound up on this podcast. First off, that's God. He brought you here. Secondly, start with reading the Proverbs. Proverbs just teach you how to be a man of integrity. So they're very easy to read and they're amazing. And the crazy thing is I've been reading the proverb of the day for over 14 years. And a lot of it's underlined, as you can imagine. But all of a sudden, like I'll read this verse and I'll be like, how did I not have this underlined? Like this is such a, you know what I mean? But like God's talking to me day to day right there. Right? I was at my life, a year ago. I didn't need that verse, but now this verse is working within my life.
So
what's
funny,
going on in
dude,
my life? It's an evolving, growing book. It's
last
crazy.
night. So every month we give the boys a challenge. And so the dad who did a devotion last night, the devotion was around thinking. Like, boys, I want you to think. Like things are created twice. First, they're created in your mind, and then you go create them in the world. But the power of thinking. And so then his challenge was to read a proverb a day. So we all read it this morning.
Yeah.
And so I got Proverbs 23 open right now. And verse 22 says, listen to your father who gave you life. Boom, right there, dude. Like exactly what we're talking about. But the thing is like to listen to your father who gave you life. It's not just talking about making you breathe, right? We know God played a bigger role in that, but it's we are passing life to our children by the way that we're living and it being an example to them. Dude, I love it. JD, we could probably talk the rest of the day and just geek out on all of this stuff. My friend, I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the work you do.
I love it, man.
I will tell you, I'm into fitness, and fitness. I love fitness because it's a true. This is what I've said, right? If like in my world, we kind of have these four pillars: faith, family, finance, and fitness. I can be so full of shit on those other three and be like, my finances are great. My wife thinks I'm incredible. Me and God are like tight. But if I tell you I care about fitness and you're standing next to me in 2 seconds, you know whether I'm a liar or not. So I feel, and fitness is really hard for men. It's hard discipline to lean into. So kudos to you just for doing the work yourself and being an inspiration to men, because that is not easy.
Yeah.
And thank you for, choosing life and then choosing to pass that life on to others. So dude, I just massive blessing to you, your marriage, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your daughter, relationship with your grandkid, freaking Grandpa JD over here. So major blessing to you. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to our paths crossing again in the future. All right. Until next time. What an incredible conversation. I've got notes all over my desk, but the one thing that I really want to point out and bring to the light is what if we were truly judged based on how our grandkids show up? Like that would have all of us lean in more intentionally the type of man I am, not just today, but what type of man am I creating tomorrow? Who will I be at 85? Is he a man that will be able to look back and see the way he poured into himself for those around him, poured into his bride, his queen, poured into his children, and is there present a man of wisdom for his grandchildren? My friends, let's live lives as if we were judged based on who our grandkids will be. If you are enjoying these conversations, if they're powerful, two things you can do for me. One, write a review and or share it with a friend. Help spread the word that fatherhood matters. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, your spouse, and your community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.